Hey guys, what's up? It's your host here, SeattleBeats, and welcome to the Seahawks 12th Man Week in Review for Week 3's matchup versus the San Francisco 49ers. I've been a huge fan of the Seattle Seahawks now for years, but I've noticed that there aren't too many YouTube shows out there that review each game after every game. So with that being said, I'm going to take a chance here, see what you guys think about it, and get into what happened this week. The first notable news to come out of this game was Russell Wilson's knee injury in the third quarter. But before you guys start freaking out if you missed the game, it's not a season-ending knee injury. He was running around on the sideline and he even wanted to come back in the game. But it looked really scary. Like, I'm shocked he didn't tear an ACL or something. His leg literally went completely sideways. He's going to be needing to be a little bit more careful here. I'm kind of wondering if maybe it was a compensation injury because it was on his opposite leg. But I will say that his ankle looked like it was moving around better. It might not make a difference if he hurt his knee really bad. But from the looks of it, he's moving around, and the ankle didn't seem to be bothering him as much now. Now he just needs to be really careful with that knee, and I think they should rest him for a few practices. He's never missed a practice, but if there's any time to miss it, he needs to now. They need to keep him safe for later in the season. But I don't think you need to worry as a fan right now, just a fantasy owner. Alright, now that we're past that scary news, we have some awesome news to share. Christine Michael had a 100-yard game and got his first 2 touchdowns in the NFL. I never thought I'd say this last year, but I think I like Christine Michael more than Thomas Rawls right now. And it's not just because of the injury he just suffered, because I know he couldn't play today and that last week was a really difficult game. But the first week he looked like he was healthy, but he just didn't play as well as Michael did. Michael looks like he's a back that's totally redeemed himself. He came in, started, and didn't do the best he wanted to do, and then all of a sudden he turned it around, and this is a huge redemption story. I honestly think Christine Michael could be great for the Seahawks. He's not going to be any short of Marshawn Lynch, but he looks like a runner that we could actually depend on. I'm not sure if Rawls will come back and take the job, but as of right now, I think Christine Michael definitely has a chance of taking the job, that's for sure. And now on to another surprise story. If anyone would have told me after his injury last year that he'd be back in week 1, even though it was limited snaps, I would have told you you're crazy because that injury usually keeps people out for a year, and then when they come back, they're never the same. And he made it through that patellar tendon injury, and today he showed that Jimmy Graham is still Jimmy Graham. Now, I personally don't think that Jimmy Graham really matches this style of offense. I think they do better with blocking tight ends. But if Jimmy Graham can play at all like he did in New Orleans, Russell Wilson having that connection will really help the team, especially in the red zone. So, guys, if you're a Seahawks fan, as long as Jimmy Graham stays healthy, the patellar tendon injury did not change how good he is. He is still a beast. And did you guys see that crazy catch where he stole the ball out of that defender's hands? That blew my freaking mind. Jesus. Now on to the superstar that is Doug Baldwin. This isn't my bias. Doug Baldwin is totally underappreciated. Now, I'm not going to say he's at the level of Antonio Brown because very few people are as good as Antonio Brown. But for this offense, Doug Baldwin is the wide receiver bell cow. He did good with Russell Wilson, and he even did good with Trayvon Boykin. If we ever have to suffer through a start with Trayvon Boykin, I can pretty much guarantee you Doug Baldwin will do all the crazy stuff he always does and find a way to get open and give Trayvon Boykin a way to get out of crazy situations. Because that's what Doug Baldwin does. He finds ways to get open, and he's really good at running downfield. So if I was going to have any superstar wide receiver on my team that isn't one of the top 3 guys like Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, or Odell Beckham Jr., I'm taking Doug Baldwin because he is as clutch as it gets. Now on to the way the Seahawks defense has been playing. The first 2 weeks they played great, but they didn't get the turnovers they wanted. They did do good with sacks and forcing 3 and outs, but the Seahawks always do best when they have a high turnover ratio. And now with Bobby Wagner's interception, even though it's the first one in the first 3 weeks of the season, this is going to give them the energy boost they need to start getting those 2 turnovers, interceptions, and forced fumbles. That's what makes this team so great. And even though the offense has been kind of concerning here and there, they played great today, and the defense has looked great the whole time. As long as Russell Wilson can stay healthy, and we can make sure we figure out what the problem is with our offensive line, I think we'll be alright. I trust the offensive line coach. Let's see where it takes us. Now that we've talked about all the notable news out of this game as Seahawks fans, 12th men and women, let's talk about what this game meant for fantasy players, what this game's fantasy implications were. My first fantasy tip would be to temporarily stay away from Russell Wilson. As a Seahawks fan, I don't think you need to necessarily worry a lot, because he was still moving around fine and seemed like he was totally in good spirits, so that's a sign that he might come back from this injury without a problem. But as a fantasy owner, you want to make sure that you always have consistency and potential to blow up in games. With Russell Wilson dealing with all he's dealing with right now, I don't see that blow up potential. So that's why I would stay away from him. But as a fan, don't worry yourself too much. They just need to give him a break and let him take off a few practices, and I think he'll be fine. My second tip would be to use a waiver on Christine Michael if you aren't in a deep fantasy league. In my league, we would have drafted people like him in like the 12th or 13th round, so he's obviously not going to be available for your waiver. But if you're in an 8-man or 10-man league, he might be up there. And if you're ever going to use your fab dollars or waiver priority, you want to use it on a potential starter. And Christine Michael being a potential starter for the Seattle Seahawks, a run-heavy offense, you're going to want a piece of that. So I'd recommend putting it all in on him, or at least using even a number 1 waiver priority. Because he's looking great, and he definitely could easily take over that job. And for my third and final tip for players involved in this game, I'd start the 49ers Carlos Hyde weekly, regardless of the matchup, as long as Gabbert is starting. If you drafted Carlos Hyde, the way he's been playing, I'm not going to say he's incredible because he got a lot of his points in garbage time, but Gabbert does not look great. He's going to need someone to lean on. And as long as that's going on, he's going to lean on Hyde. And Hyde's easy matchups, he's going to go down the hole and get a lot of yards. And Hyde's hard matchups, he's going to have to get leaned on by Gabbert. I see a lot of usage of him, and I definitely would start him if I had him. Well, guys, that's pretty much everything I have to cover for this week. We started off the season 2-1, had a nice big win today, and I think we could go pretty far this year. The only thing we got to cover is our offensive line problems, and we have a great offensive line coach, and I trust that they'll get it done. Alright, guys, I'll see you all again after next week's game against the Jets. The Jets had 6 interceptions from Fitzpatrick today, so that's not very good, but honestly, Fitzpatrick isn't that bad. I think he just had a fluke of a terrible game, so next week should be pretty intense. Alright, guys, see you then. Have a good one.